Hey y'all, I'm the Hotshot Doc, a real life doctor and a hotshot carrier, coming to you live from North Alabama. Step on into my compliance clinic where we break down DOT rules and real world carrier problems. You've got to learn, some days peanuts, some days a shell. I have learned the hard way, and I'd like to save you those shell days if I can. So, today we're talking about proof of active commercial insurance, also called your COI. What it is, what you actually need, and why your insurance agent really matters way more than people realize in hotshot trucking. So, let's jump in. Section 1, what is a COI? A COI, or Certificate of Insurance, is proof that you have active commercial coverage. This is not personal insurance. This is commercial. This is federally required to activate and maintain your MC authority. It's the big bill. Required by every broker and load board, and something enforcement and auditors expect you to have immediately available. No COI, no loads, no authority, and no business. And no, your personal auto policy does not count. Alright, section 2, let's get into some of the basics. Hotshot insurance is not regular truck insurance. It's specialized commercial policies designed for time-sensitive freight, pickup trucks, pull-in trailers, and for-hire interstate operations. Once you're hauling freight for money, personal auto policies are void. Claims get denied, and you're exposed personally. FMCSA oversight applies whether you're CDL or non-CDL. So if you're over 10,001 pounds in interstate commerce, you gotta have this commercial policy. So what are the federal minimum requirements? Just so that, when you're talking to these insurance agents, you're calling and shopping around, you don't want to be taken for a drive, right? So let's talk about some of those minimum requirements. As of 2025, because I'm making this in February, so we're talking 2025 as far as updates. Primary auto liability, which is your BIPD, needs to be $750,000 minimum for non-hazardous freight. You're filed with the FMCSA, and this is what the insurance agent does. They use a BMC-91 or 91X form. This filing is what actually activates that MC number, and we go more into MC and DOT numbers in a later video. Cargo insurance is the other thing that you need. The federal minimum is $5,000 per vehicle or $10,000 per occurrence. Now let me be very, very clear here. These are legal minimums. They're not practical minimums. So wait. What do you mean by that? Brokers and shippers usually require you to have more. Here's the real world truth. Most brokers will not even load you into their system unless you have $1 million in primary liability and $100,000 in cargo insurance. Your insurance agent, if they're good, should know this. If you try to operate with federal minimums only, you're going to struggle booking freight, you'll get rejected from load boards, and you'll look like a high-risk carrier. All of this stuff matters, particularly for new MCs, new companies. That first year, first 18 months, this stuff is really going to make the difference between you getting a load and not. Compliance is about passing audits. Insurance is about staying in business legally and practically. So, types of coverage that you should understand. Let's run through some of the big ones quickly. What is primary auto liability? So the reason I want you to understand these things is they're broken down in contracts. If you're hiring drivers, you're leasing on drivers, they're going to have questions. What do you mean this? I have to pay for this through what is this stuff? You're going to get a million questions. You ought to at least know what some of this is. Primary auto liability. It's what you have to have that $1 million on, or what's recommended $1 million on. Primary auto liability covers bodily injury and property damage to others. It is required. Remember, that's that $750,000 federal minimum, but practically you want that $1 million. Motor truck cargo covers damage, theft, or loss of freight. So this protects the freight. The first part protects the people. The second part protects the freight. $100,000 is the standard. Physical damage covers your truck and trailer. It's optional, but it's smart. So far we've talked about covering people getting hurt and the freight getting hurt. We haven't talked about the actual vehicle you're driving getting hurt. So you may want a physical damage policy added on there as well. Some of these places, the places that you deliver these loads to, it can be sketchy sometimes. Theft, vandalism, collision with other crazy drivers out there, the wild weather that we have, all that falls under physical damage. You're going to be on the road a lot. There's going to be damage. It's probably a good idea to add that on there. What is non-trucking liability or bobtail insurance? So this is where people get, I'm going to say, sketchy and confused all at the same time. So a lot of my leased-on drivers are using their personal vehicles as the commercial vehicle, their pickup, their F-250, their F-350, their Dodge Ram 2500, whatever. This is what they're using. But it's also, when they get home, it's what they might have been driving around the community and going to the grocery store in. When you unhook from that trailer and you're going to go off and, I don't know, go to a hotel, go to a movie, go to the grocery store, this is what I'm talking about. This is why you'll see a lot of Hotshotters, they don't use permanent stickers, because if they do get in a wreck when they're not hooked to their trailer, they don't want it to be associated with the commercial insurance side of things, because that insurance is already expensive enough, and you don't want to trigger all of the different paperwork and filings you have to fill out if you get in a wreck while using that personal vehicle. So that's why they'll use papers, they'll use window markers, and that way they can wipe it off and pretend like they're not commercial when they're running around town without the trailer. It doesn't really legally work out that way, but that's part of why they're doing it. If you do want to stay legal the whole time, you want permanent stickers on the side of your truck. This is your work truck, and then you have a personal truck at home, so it's separated a bit more. You want what's called bobtail insurance. That covers driving around without your trailer, deadheading, and personal use of the vehicle. It's really recommended for owner-operators to just go ahead and pay a little bit more for this so that you can leave your stickers on and you're covered even when you're not moving freight around. Alright, what is general liability insurance? That covers non-driving incidents, so loading docks, slips, equipment damage, stuff like that. Workers' comp, this is required if you have W-2 drivers. So if you are hiring employees in the traditional sense, you got to have workers' comp insurance. Brokers are going to ask about it. If you have set up your company to have independent contractors or 1099s, you don't need this. Workers' comp insurance is also state dependent, so just check with your state, see what they require. Insurance is layered, not one size fits all. Your agent should be well versed in what you need and what they traditionally think you could save a few dollars on. Alright, so let's talk about the reality of the costs. For one truck and trailer in 2025 as a CDL driver, it's going to cost between $7,000 and $15,000 per year. This is all dependent on what you're getting covered, your safety performance, your driving record, all of it goes into account. How long you've been driving, how old your company is, where you're situated at, where's your home terminal, who's your agent, how much of a cut they're taking. I mean, the list goes on and on. So monthly cost, you're looking between $800 to $1,200 as an average across the nation. Factors that move the needle, like I was saying, your driving record, your experience, the type of cargo that you're moving. So when you're filling out for your MC number, again in those other videos, you don't want to click things like oil field and hazmat if you're not doing it. Clearly, because it's going to make your insurance skyrocket. The radius and mileage that you're driving, the location, so where you are located in the world does make a difference with these insurance companies. And then any kind of deductibles that you have. And here's a big one people miss because they're just so focused on keeping that initial startup number low, which is understandable. Your insurance agent matters to me almost as much as getting that authority. You're going to be working with this person, your insurance agent, constantly, literally daily, if not every few hours, especially if you are the small motor carrier, the owner operator. You're doing everything. You're wearing all the hats. This person, y'all might as well get bestie tattoos. You're going to be talking that much. They are going to be helping you with adding and removing drivers, updating equipment, sending the COIs to brokers. So that's like that almost hourly thing if you've got a couple of drivers underneath you. They're going to be fixing filing issues. So they are going to be the ones helping you stay legal on the road. They keep your authority alive. They're going to be handling claims, God forbid if you have any. It's trucking, it's driving, it's going to happen. They are going to help keep your authority active, like I said. So they are going to be your bestie. This is not a set it and forget it relationship. So you need to be, I guess, picky in who you work with. A bad agent delays COIs. They miss FMCSA filings. They cost you loads and can literally get your authority shut down. So you want somebody who's on the phone, on their email, paying attention. This is their job. They're going to take a commission. They're working. They should be earning the commission. They should not be ignoring you. A good agent answers fast, understands Hotshot operations, knows brokers' requirements, so they're not just going to sell you the minimum unless you're just being cheap. And, I understand sometimes you just got to get off the ground, but they're going to understand the industry standard and those higher numbers that brokers and shippers are looking for. A good agent is also going to fix problems before they become violations. So when you're shopping price, you also need to choose a relationship. Choose someone you can stand to talk to on the phone 40,000 times a day. All right, let's talk about some pro tips. New drivers added to your policy often require 1.5 months up front. So this was a bit of a surprise when we first started going, and it almost put us out of business because we didn't budget for it correctly. And to be fair, our insurance agent should have warned us. So when you're shopping for a new authority, there's pretty much only one company we found at the time that would give you insurance, and that was, I'm not even sure I can say it on YouTube, but Progressive. The insurance agent we had was young. He was newer, but he was great. He worked with us on the commission. He would help us as much as he could. He's trying to get his feet underneath him too as a business person. He neglected to mention when we had our first big hiring that Progressive wanted 1.5 times basically up front. So this is a yearly policy that you're going to renew every year. It can change, things change within a year very quickly in trucking. So in Progressive's policy, they want 1.5 months up front, and then I believe the last month of the year, you end up not paying anything. Something like that. So they wanted more up front in case people are jumping policies, because you're hiring and firing people. Progressive wants their money. We're just going to put it that way. So the reason that was such an issue for us is it was a huge bill up front if you added multiple drivers at once. It makes a significant difference when you add 3 or 4 people and suddenly the next month you're looking at like a $10,000 insurance bill because you quoted these guys a weekly price or you budgeted for yourself a weekly price. So make sure you understand, at least as a new authority, and with some particular insurance companies, they're going to want a little more up front sometimes. They do it a little funky. They'll drop you if you don't pay it. If you're running, business people, they understand. You got 30 days after that due date, typically, to get the money to them before they shut down your authority. So keep that in mind. Do the math before you scale. Insurance cash flow will kill a young or new carrier. It almost got us. Choose freight classes carefully. General freight, construction supplies, building materials. Like I was saying, when you're filling out your MC, when you're filling out your insurance, when they ask you what you are, unless you are working specifically in an industry like the oil field or steel, don't mark it. Do not mark that little box because it will spike your rate faster than a roofie, if you will. You usually want to stick with, as a new carrier, general freight, construction supplies, and building materials. Okay, maintain continuous coverage. A lapse in your insurance can suspend your authority, trigger audits, and kill broker relationships overnight. I mean, we have seen in this past year with this trucking industry slide down to hell, if you will, 100-year companies. They'll go bankrupt, they lose their authority, they're done. Don't hire too many people at once. Don't be doing sketchy stuff with your bankroll. Right now, the industry is too up and down. You got to be steady, keep a clear head, and stay compliant. So what actually goes in your file? We've talked about all these different things you need so you can be savvy when you're talking to insurance and you're shopping around. What do you actually need to keep in your file while you're driving in the truck? A current COI, it needs to list your active truck and trailer, so what you're actually driving in or what that driver is in, and it needs to be updated whenever changes are made. So if you get new equipment, make sure you update your insurance policy. That seems pretty common sense. Brokers are going to require copies whenever you are booking a load, so that's why that insurance agent needs to be really good at answering the phone and being on their email. I forgot to mention, some insurance companies like Progressive, here's a positive, they do have an app where you can do it automatically. We just happen to be doing it the old-fashioned way, where we're talking with people on the phone all day long. And in any case, you want an insurance agent that understands that about the trucking industry. You need something done, you need it done in less than 5 minutes typically. So keep that in mind. Okay, closing, final takeaway. Insurance is usually your second biggest expense after fuel, but cutting corners here loses you loads, exposes your personal assets, and ends carriers early. Find a Hotshot savvy agent, build that relationship, and keep your COI current. You don't want to let it lapse. A lapsed insurance is an out of service. You will lose your authority, so that means you gotta restart, because now we can't transfer DOT and MC numbers. Well, you cannot transfer your DOT number, and with the doing away of MC, and just don't lose your authority. End of story. That's a bad day. All right. I think that wraps up the basics of insurance. This is whole certificates and degree programs, y'all. Shop around, find somebody you can deal with on a daily basis. I go over all of this. I have my nice little boxes, all of this spelled out for you in my packet on Gumroad, so y'all make sure you go check that out. If this video helped you, like it, subscribe to my channel, share it with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing yet. Let's make sure we're all speaking plain English out here on the road, y'all. My next video, I'm going to be going over just some of the other stuff you need to keep in your cab. We'll be going over ELDs and probably the DOT and MC numbers if I had to pick my next favorite topic. So, y'all, I'm the Hotshot Doc. I'm keeping y'all legal, protected, and in business if I possibly can. Roll Tide and roll on.